This sounds like the jackpot. Yeah!
Hello and welcome back to the channel. Temple of Treasure by Barcrest, a very famous fruit machine from the £15 era, from what we could almost say was the peak era of fruit machines. We were on the £15 cash jackpot. Fruit machines were still very popular. They were still getting play by, the casuals, the change from the round brigade in the pubs. But as we also know, this was also an era, well, kind of like all eras really, when fruit machines had all kinds of stuff on them, emptiers and traps and methods and all the rest of it. And Temple of Treasure was no exception. However, one of the things that made Temple of Treasure interesting, and there were a few machines around this time period, where it was when the internet was starting to gain sort of mass popularity. You don't need to go back very far into sort of the mid-1990s, kind of 95, 96, when the internet, while still very much a thing, was kind of a niche sort of area. It was, to a large extent, it was kind of only really your nerds who were on the internet in the mid-1990s. But by the time Temple of Treasure came out, and I'm going to put this as the year 2000 this came out, I do have a couple of dates on some other things that we can look at that would point towards that, but I think this was a 2000 release, maybe early 2001, but by this time the internet was far more of a mass proposition. It was before the era of smartphones, it was before the era of us all having essentially little computers in our pockets that could connect to the internet wherever we went. The internet was still very much you had a computer at home, and at that time you were almost certainly using one of those old squeaky squawky dial-up modems, but more and more people were on the internet at this point, and as ever, whenever anything is opened up to the internet, and fruit machines were no exception, there was a lot of chatter about them. And I do remember Temple of Treasure on the fruit machine sites and forums of the day. There was a lot of talk about this one and what the method on it was. And very annoyingly, I had the method, but I didn't have the machine. It was really quite frustrating because it was the back end of 2000 that I really started to get some good information. It was mid-2000 that I got just your basic force and stuff like that. I have talked about this. Let's just find the appropriate video. There we are. There is a video on the channel the day I started to win on fruit machines, where I talked about my sort of getting kicked off with just the basic forces and stuff like that. However, towards the back end of 2000, and I've covered this in the Lot of Luck video, where I was exchanging emails, I'd got my first, really sort of good contacts through the CMA mailing list, which is what I did talk about at some length in that video there. And we were starting to pass methods around. You can see there, the date there is November 2000. And that puts us very much into the £15 era. You can see there that the £15 jackpot, again, there's a video for this, the Fruit Machine Jackpot Dates video. The £15 jackpot came in on the 1st of October 1998 and ran to the 1st of January 2002. So Temple of Treasure by Barcrest, that was slap bang in the middle of the £15 jackpot era. And yes, it was very frustrating. I had the method, but none of them turned up here when the thing was new. I did get them a little bit later on, but as we'll go through the video here, I'll show you how this thing got chipped and the original playing method was removed. So, as I understand it, as it was explained to me at the time, and I have to be honest, I never got to try this on one of the early ROMs, but basically what you did was you forced it out for a red Temple of Treasure, we'll have a go on the machine. I'm sure you're all familiar with it because it's such a famous one, but we will have a go on it later on and you'll see how it all goes. But you've basically got a feature matrix here, and as you're gambling up the wins, some of the wins will have a feature exchange on them. All of these features here are double lamped. They can be normal or red. Obviously, the red is the enhanced version of the feature. Temple of Treasure is your jackpot feature. That is your guaranteed jackpot. And then you can get repeats. It uses this cash sort of fan across the top here. Doesn't matter whether it's super or normal. You're guaranteed 15 quid. But on a normal, it can do some slightly weird amounts. On a red, or the super version, it's a true skill, so it's always, you can hit the 15 quid, and if you get a repeat, you can hit another 15 quid, so that goes in £15 jumps. And the way I understood it was that forcing for the red Temple of Treasure was almost like your knockback method in one self-contained little package. So if you look at Lot of Luck here, where you had to explicitly knock back invincible boards to send the compensator crazy, on Temple of Treasure, just by forcing it specifically for the red Temple of Treasure, ignoring any other jackpot opportunities, that would trigger the streak. I do remember some people talking about knocking it back as well, because that was a thing on Barcrest of this era, that you could knock back some red Temple of Treasures to get it even happier. However, if we have a look at the CMA, if I press the right bloody thing, it'll work even better. There we are. If we have a look at the CMA mailing list, we've referenced this old bad boy before. Now, this is from the 25th of September 2002, when I took this copy of it. But if we go down here to Temple of Treasure, this has got a description of the method. Now, as ever, as used to happen on the CMA, generally speaking, when the proper method found its way onto the golden pages, it was a pretty good indication that the thing had ceased to exist out in the wild. Even back in its heyday, the golden pages to an extent were kind of like an archive of things that weren't really out in the wild anymore. But you can see there that method 1 says that you play only for the red Temple of Treasure feature, and that should start the big streak. And in addition to that, we've got discussion there of arcade and pub ROMs. I can certainly imagine that being the case. That was quite common at the time, that machines would have different ROMs or just different settings depending on the location that they're in, with arcades being far more geared towards big streaks and pub ROMs being geared more towards smaller streaks with more flattened out play. But either way, you went for it in the same fashion, which was forcing out for that red Temple of Treasure feature. However, if we scroll down, can you see there? We're talking about the 0.3 program update. That update there is dated June 2001. And what they're saying there is that chip update, the 0.3 ROM, dumps 45 to 50 pounds far too randomly, that the force doesn't really work, that it can just randomly award you 3 bats. It can give you the Temple of Treasure feature off that, and even if it's offering some big wins early on, it can still cost a load of money to actually force it out. Now, one thing that is acknowledged here is that it's saying this is great news for Joe Public, as they may get the elusive JP very easily, but there seems very little pattern to it, even if the thing is continually giving nudges. So there's always this kind of tension, isn't there, between what is, inverted commas, a good machine for the player, as in the player who knows about what they're doing, and the casual punter who's just going up and putting a few pounds in and hoping for the best. So what it looks like Barcrest did here with these ROM revisions is made it so it responded less well, or indeed not at all, to these original methods which were taking the streaks out of them. Very much as happened with, of course, Arabian Nights / Neptune's Treasure / Red Hot Nights, where it was that forcing out for the jackpot repeater and getting the invincible board, where they took that out. So it was very much a tussle around this time, sort of players versus manufacturers, and getting these rechips out to change the known behaviour of the machine and how to get the value out of them. But you can see there that June 2001 is explicitly calling out this 0.3 ROM, which stops the original force method working. Now, by the time they got here, these things were chipped. We did have some Temple of Treasures on £15 jackpots. We also got a couple on the £25 upgrade, which I'll talk about. But by the time they got here, it was kind of, as memory serves, it was beyond the point where I knew that those rechips were out for it, so I knew to be wary of it. If we have a look in the emulator here, by the way, I'll open the doors. Can you see we're on 0.5? So that's 2 revisions along, of course, from 0.3. 0.3 was where the rechip was done, and then we're actually on 0.5 here. But that isn't to say that you can't still have some fun playing this in the emulator. You still can force it out as well. Certainly the Red Temple of Treasure, if you specifically force for the Red Temple of Treasure, it doesn't guarantee that it's going to start any kind of streak. Just a straight jackpot repeater at the top can repeat. It does still have a sort of 45 to 60 in it, but the way that you get that out seems to be far more varied now, and it will perhaps behave a little bit more like that rechip was described there, whereby the casual punter might have a bit more of a go. You can also make a case for collecting some of the red features as well, because they can be jackpot capable. The other thing that you've got going on with this is the barcode. And there are 2 barcodes on this. There's like the bonus nudge barcode, which is mentioned there. You can see that. The correct code there to go is 231, which awards 12 nudges. The suggestion there is that that will gamble up to 99 nudges. There's also your standard single, double, treble, and the other way around barcode as well, which awards those features there. I have it in my head that there was something on the barcode on the early chips as well, but like I say, I didn't have them here, so I can't really speak to that. It does mention here that you should take Fruit Shooter, which is 213, if it is streaking already. There's also a couple of notes there about the order that you should collect things in, depending on what else has happened and where the various pots are. So obviously you can pause that and have a look if you want to. On terms of the £25 jackpot, Temple of Treasure, we had a couple of them here on a £25 jackpot. I don't think it was much of a favoured machine on the £25 jackpot. Certainly one of the ones that I played here, I remember I walked up to it with my pint, and I had loads of, this was well into the days when I went out fully armed with a load of pound coins and a load of cash. So I walked up to this £25 Temple of Treasure, I'd got a fresh pint, I was ready to set about a proper tussle with it, and I was literally about £3 in. It, just at the end of a spin, it put 3 symbols on the reels, including a jackpot, and said hold highest. So I thought, okay, so I held the jackpot, pressed start, and it just spun in a jackpot, didn't repeat, and it just killed the machine. So it was, obviously I won about best part of £20 on it, but I'd kind of been in the mood for a little bit of a scrap with it. But I was like, well, I can't really carry on playing now because I've had a jackpot and it's dead. So I don't think it was a great machine on £25, and certainly it was on those earlier £15 chips that this thing was quite coveted, because there was this way to get the really big Temple of Treasure out of it. But like I said, it's still a fun machine to play. So let's have a go here in the emulator. And what we're going to do here is just play it on a force anyway, because even after the sort of method was taken out of it, on the rechips, I always played this on a straight force anyway, and I always would just go, even though I knew it wasn't necessarily the perfect way to do it, I would still play for the Red Temple of Treasure, and just doing this on a straight force, I kind of did okay out of them. I had a couple of epic scraps with them. They really could hang on sometimes, but just on a straight force didn't seem to be the worst idea in the world. Now, I have deliberately gone into this blind. I've just taken this out of my Fruit Machine emulation folder and I've just started playing it as it is because I want to go into this blind to get the effect of just walking up to it in the pub, because I'm not really wanting anything specific to happen here. And I have a suspicion that what I probably did was played it out to a big jackpot repeater and then left it. So what we're going to see here potentially is that this thing can play. Oh, bloody hell, it can play quite hard work when it wants to. Now, the gameplay here, if you're not familiar, just in case, the idea is that you're filling symbols in on the matrix there. Your horseshoes are your bonus. So you want to be holding for the bonus, holding for wins. It can do 3 holds. Holds after nudges will work as well. Any win will put you on that side there, and then you're gambling up, and the idea is to get your feature exchanges. You've got a jackpot repeater at the top. There we go. So let's just say, we'll see here. It's a lot of these bonuses. Well, I mean, I suppose if I get an option to go for the barcode, I'll take it. But I'm probably just going to force it out for a red temple of treasure first. I mean, we'll do that just for a laugh. I can't imagine it's going to 3 hold. No, I don't think so. It's not playing very well, this, is it? If I had to have a guess, I would say that I probably had a jackpot repeater or even a streak out of it last time, because that was how I usually play it. Oh, there we go. That's not bad, though. We've got 3 holds on 5 quid. So that's a nice high figure there. So let's have a look. Oh, look at that. We've got to get all the way to there for a feature exchange. That's probably going to use. Yeah, there we go. So now, the way I understand this is that on the earlier chips, if this was giving you decent cash wins, it basically meant that you were pretty close. Whereas on these later chips, it could kind of... it didn't really mean as much. You saw there on the CMA pages that they were saying, look, you can get a £12 win early on, deliberately lose, and then you can still be £70 or £80 from a top. So, obviously, we can get... So, I mean, what you can do is shuffle like that, and it will sometimes let you piss about. So we haven't got anything up there. You can go for another bonus as well if you can get the... Oh, there we are. That's worked there. So we've got 3 quid. That's not a bad win. One of the things it can do is it can just give you 3 of these jewels when it... So there's our feature exchange. That's just a normal feature exchange. So we've got to get up to it. There is... So now what it can do when it's been a twat, and I think this is what they were talking about on the CMAs, it can just fill those jewels in and give you a random kind of jackpot or 30 off that, which nice when it happens, but isn't necessarily the big streak that you want. So then, what you're doing when you get up to the top here, and I guess this is how this would work better on the original chips, is rather than gambling out for the jackpot repeater, what you do is deliberately lose the gamble, because we're specifically forcing for that red temple of treasure. And we will do that here. And it might still work, you know. You can still get a half decent result from just doing that. So, one thing that you might want to do is, or this is the way I played it for real, is try and get wins a little bit higher up, because you don't want... Oh, look at that! Fuck me, a red temple of treasure. Wow. Okay, well, you've got to take that out. Oh. Now will we get the repeat? That's the thing. That came in very early, didn't it?
Yeah.
Ooh! Ho-ho.
Yes.
There's another. Can we get another? 45. Go on. Oh, see now. This is the thing, I guess, is that what you're almost wanting here, like lot of luck style streaks. you know, where it can run. They're talking on there on the CMA about, you know, £90 streaks and more. Obviously, that isn't that. And I'm wondering if that's the kind of the behaviour that they're talking about, is that just on a moderately happy machine, it can offer you a red Temple of Treasure. And it'll do that. We've got 30 quid there. Okay, so fine, but that's probably now going to be... Let's just play it out for another win. But that's going to kill the machine. And whilst we're I mean, in fact, you can see there, we're 21 quid in, so it doesn't represent much of a profit. But I guess here, the feeling that I get from what the CMA is talking about there, and indeed playing it in the emulator, because I put a lot of money in this over the years in the emulator, is that they flattened it out a lot. Oh, there we are. Hold after a lose there. Let's have a look. Come on, 3 there. Oh, no, sorry. Is that they flattened it out a lot and made, though, you can't really manipulate it, I suppose is the correct word. You can't really manipulate it in the same way as you could those early chips. The problem we've got there is, yeah, and you can see there, you'll know when it's got some life in it. Still, oh, he says, oh, 3 ultra red 7s there. Red features, I think particularly on the early chips, the red features were a good way of saying it had some life in it, but even here, a red... Oh, bloody hell. And you can see there, I mean, we're not getting anywhere now. So that 30, it was just a flat little 30 there. And now we're kind of... I mean, 30 is... It's better than nothing. It's better than no repeat, I suppose. But this is not... We're not walking away from this with any kind of substantial profit. As it stands at the moment, I'm going to be 3 quid up. So... Okay, let's take another win. See if we can get to a feature exchange. Okay, we should win that at least. It's giving us some bloody jewels, isn't it? Oh, well, no, I can't. Oh, not a jewel. Well, that's... we see there, it's not having it now, is it? So this is what we're left with to play in the here and now. I don't believe there has ever been any earlier ROMs than these 0.5s. It's often the case with these MPU 5 machines, because where a lot of these came from in the earlier days of the Fruit Machine emulation scene, a lot of these came from the manufacturer's bulletin boards by various means, and they were made available for operators to get the latest ROMs and burn them to put in their own machines. And obviously they would only have the newer version of the ROMs in there. So this is what we have. And oh, bastard. That's what makes these early ROMs quite rare and sort of quite coveted, is because they are much harder to come across in the here. Now you can see there, that's 30 in and 30 out. So we can cross one last throw of the dice with a bonus. Okay, we've got that. We'll have 3 quid. We'll have 1 punt here. Can we get up to an X? Oh, for fuck's sake. Let's collect our 30 quid. So unfortunately, what we have here is not necessarily the best version of this machine. If those earlier ROMs do ever become available, the ones that are being talked about here, I mean, if we say that 0.3 is the rechip, that's, in fact, you can see it's almost done what's being talked about. I mean, the CMA here saying this dumps 45 to 50 far too randomly. That one there, you saw there, it did it with me. Low down feature on a machine that otherwise wasn't really doing very much. Just red Temple of Treasure, 30 quid, and then dead. Which is not what we were going for on those earlier chips, where you were looking at pushing streaks out of these. As you see there, they're talking about 90 quid. Now, in my experience in the emulator, you're not going to get a streak that big out of it. But it does have a 45, a 60, and I think once I've had a 75 out of it. But I haven't really found any rhyme or reason to it in terms of what you... Sometimes a red Temple of Treasure will just go nuts. You can have the jackpot repeat. A normal Temple of Treasure can pay pretty big. The barcodes can be okay. It's like Barcrest have really flattened out the payments that the machine can make to the player that they've distributed it more evenly and they've given it more of a semi-random play profile, which is not what the attraction was of this machine on those early ROMs. But I do enjoy playing it in the emulator. It's a fun one to play, and the fact that you don't always know what it's going to do, because it's a bit more, oh, 1, 2, 3, I can get a bonus there, can't I? The fact that you don't really know what it's going to do, in a way, makes it more interesting, because this is one of the problems with method-based machines. That's quite a nice one. Oh, bastard! Oh, let's go for a left one. Yeah, one of the problems with these method-based machines is if you're just doing the method, you kind of always know what they're going to do. So in terms of, whilst that would have been great for making money on the real machine, in terms of sort of replay value in the emulator, it's not necessarily the best. So even though we don't have those early ROMs here, I would definitely recommend playing this in the emulator because it is good fun. If there's something on these 0.5 ROMs, I don't know what it is. And from my chat at the time, and from what the CMA is saying there, but also from my sort of contacts that I had at the time, once this thing's... Oh, come on. Oh, bastard. Once this thing started getting onto those later chips, it wasn't what was considered a sort of first-class earner of a machine, because it just became a little bit too predictable, and you couldn't steer it down the sort of path that you wanted to do to maximise your profit out of it. What I'm going to do here, this machine has a really nice jackpot sequence. Ooh. So what I'm going to do is force out the jackpot repeater at the top of the trail. We'll see if we can get a streak out of it that way. Oh, for God's sake. And then I'll round this video off, because there's not a huge amount more to say about this really, other than to just emphasise again that in that early internet era there was a lot of buzz around this machine. I definitely remember that. There was a lot of chat about it publicly on the CMA mailing list and behind the scenes as well. Oh, there we are, that's a fiver. Because people really wanted to know what was making this one tick, and there was talk of people out there making lots of money out of it. Shall we just see, well, that's going to lose, innit? Yeah. So this was one of those early sort of mass internet era machines that crossed over where, and I guess a Cheerful Pessimist talked about this in his video, where it was kind of the beginning of the end for the sort of pro player scene, because you just had loads of people on the internet talking about this, scrabbling for the method. Somebody would always let it slip somewhere as well. And of course, in the internet era, even if it was people sat at home on their shitty computers with dial-up modems, that was still enough to get the information spread far and wide very quickly. Pie Factory was another one. I talked about that in the Pie Factory video. Cheerful Pessimist mentioned that as well, that this is when stuff was... Oh, they finally got a skill bonus. I think no lose might actually be best there, because I can go low and hopefully not get a 4. Oh, you bastard. Yeah, Pie Factory was another one which the internet was all over. There was that Arcadia board. I remember there was some annoyance directed at that back in the day. There was the Arcadia board where stuff was getting out and that. Oh, £6, there we go. And Temple of Treasure again. This was another one that there was quite a lot of buzz around. And this is in the era when fruit machines, of course, what are we going to get there? Ooh, half chance here, when fruit machines were everywhere. There were far more pubs. If we're going back, we're going back now, what, 24 years there. Jackpot, just go for the jackpot first, come on.
Yes! This sounds like the jackpot. Yeah!
It's a really good jackpot sequence, that. Very Barcrest were all over it with their sound and light shows at this time. Can we get a repeat? No, we can't. We'll just play on. We'll just play on for... you can see if it's going, really. If there's anything more to come from the next win, the next bonus, that kind of thing. We'll give you a clue if this has got any more life in it. But yeah, of course, we're going back in the year 2000. Far more pubs and far more fruit machines and far more people playing the fruit machines as well. A very, very different proposition to what it... to what it was in the dying days of the sort of £100 era. Can we get a win? Oh, that's very optimistic, isn't it? I think, again, you can see there, it's just 15 quid in the middle of nowhere there. That's not... We'd know about it, I think, by now if there's any more coming. We'll just try another bonus. So yeah, it was a different time, even though it wasn't, that long ago. 25 years, yeah, okay, it's a chunky time. It's not like ancient history, but the fruit machine landscape was just massively, massively different back then to what it has been for the sort of dying days of the £100 era. And now, of course, it's kind of like completely gone, really, isn't it? That's not going to win, is Emulator. No, so you can see, though, there is a bonus there. Right, don't dick me. It can dick you on this if it wants to. What can we get there? Oh, surely. That'll work, won't it?
Hey.
Okay. We'll go for that. We could do with a bonus number there, really. Yes. Oh, 2 gambles. Oh, what a... Don't give me a jewel. Don't give me a fucking jewel. No lose. Okay, come on. Oh, what a red cash trap. That's quite unsatisfying. No, fuck that. Come on, we should make it here, surely. Come on, come on, come on.
Yes! This sounds like the jackpot.
So I think, in a way, this is actually showing off quite well that this is a more of a flat profile machine now. It isn't behaving at all like is being described on the CMA mailing list there, or the golden pages rather, on how this thing... Let's just go back to that. This is very much playing... It's very much playing like that machine, isn't it? It's far more like that than it is like that. So we can see the evidence of our own eyes here. Because, I mean, okay, I've not lost there. I'm 48 quid in and I'm 60 quid out. We'll put one more 3 quid in. Because it is a fun machine. Like I say, even without the sort of method, as it were, this is a fun machine to play in the emulator. Let's just give it another 3 quid. But it does like to do this. It'll just chuck out 30, 45, 15, whatever, and then just go back. And once in a while, it actually feels to me... Yeah, I think it's gone again there, Anna. It does feel to me like once in a while, it kind of more just cycles the streak round rather than the player being able to manipulate it out. Which is, as the CMA acknowledges, is probably a lot better for Joe Public, but in terms of a dependable earner for a player, is much less of an enticing prospect. Look, 3 olds on red 7s maybe? No. So there, oh, go on. Oh, this is the thing here. I'm not kind of doing this for a camera. I do get sucked into playing this machine. When I fire... Oh, bollocks. When I fire it up in the emulator, I do find myself getting sucked... Oh, there we are. Hold after nudges. Get sucked into playing it. Bonus number, please. Come on. Oh. Oh, come on. Oh, Go on. We'll have another... If we no lose, well, we're should get to the feature here. What do you reckon? Go on, then. Oh! Right, okay. I'll call it there. So, there you go, then. Temple of Treasure, very much a machine from a different era. Like I say, more pubs, more fruit machines, loads of interest in fruit machines, and the early days of loads of people being on the internet. It was a unique time in the history of fruit machines. You only need to go back. I mean, if we go back to our jackpot dates video, you know, if you go back to the previous jackpots, you know, your £10 jackpot came out in 1996. I would say that the internet was far more of a niche proposition in 1996. And then if you go back, certainly if you go back to the £6 era, in the early 1990s, whilst technically the internet did exist. I mean, I got on the internet in it properly. I thought about 96 I got on the internet properly with a squeaky squawky dial-up modem. How many people were on the internet, and what form did the internet even exist in, like 92, 93, something like that. So a lot changed in a short period of time, and by the time Temple of Treasure came out, we were into that sort of online forums. We had the CMA mailing list on Usenet and all that kind of thing. So even though it was quite primitive days of the internet by modern standards, it was enough to, I think, cause a lot of players headaches with things being passed around and posted on forums and all the rest of it. And it gave machines like this a really unique sort of interest profile. And I remember very, very clearly that there was a lot of buzz around Temple of Treasure and what the correct way to play it was, and people taking massive streaks out of it and all the rest of it. So it is available to play in the here and now in the emulator, albeit with later ROMs that behave very much as you saw there. What we've seen in the video there is a very good representation of how this one will play for you, but I think it doesn't stop it being fun. It's a fun machine to play in the emulator, and you could almost make the case that it's more fun than those earlier ROMs would be, because it can surprise you sometimes. That said, if those earlier ROMs ever turn up, I would be very interested to play them, not least because I never got a chance to play one for real. Super frustrating that I had the method but not the machine, and by the time I had the machine, the method had gone, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. But there you go, that is Barcrest's Temple of Treasure. So thank you very much for watching. Do hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will catch up with you next time. But for now, it is goodbye.